is blessed by God. Mad paper, beautiful family, lots of respect in his community. Okay, mad paper, sorry for some of you guys, let me translate here. Dude was loaded, mad paper. His financial, his 401k was looking good, everything was good. He had all kinds of gear. Beautiful family, had 7 kids. Completely blessed by God, respected in the community. Everybody looked at Job like, man, dude's got it together. Now, Satan comes and challenges God and says, hey, Job's really only following you because you blessed him. But if you let me take away some of that stuff, he's going to curse you to your face. God says, I'll take you up on that. In fact, I'll give you complete access to him. You just can't touch his body. Let's read what happens here as God allows Satan access to him, except to touch his body. Verse 13 of chapter 1. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them when the Sabaeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. They got donkey jacked, people. Verse 16, while he was still speaking, another also came and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Verse 17, I kept on underlining while he was speaking. While he was speaking, another also came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 bands, and these aren't music bands here, folks, raided the camels and took them away, yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Verse 18, while he was still speaking, another also came and said, your sons and your daughters, they were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, getting together, having some good fellowship. And suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house. And it fell on the young people, and they're dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you. I mean, talk about the worst day of your life. You know, when my wife burns my toast, I think that I'm having a bad day. I'm talking the worst day possible. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Verse 20, then Job arose, he tore his robe, he shaved his head. All right, me and Job are on the same page here. He fell to the ground, and what did he do? He worshipped. Listen to what he says in verse 21. He said, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I'm going to go back there. And here's what I want you to pay attention to. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Verse 22 says, in all this Job did not sin, nor charge God with wrong. Pause right there real quick. Verse 21, let me read it again. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. You see, Job recognized something that's very powerful for us that we need to understand as well. Everything we've been given, everything that we have, listen, church, is God's. I'll give you an example. I have 7-year-old twin boys that I am madly in love with. Every night we have a Bible study. We pray with them. And one of the prayers that I continually pray is this. Lord, first of all, thank you for you gave me the responsibility, my wife and I, the responsibility to raise these kids of yours. Thank you. They are a privilege. I'm going to continue to give them back to you. They are your kids. Do with them what you will. I pray for you to bless them and protect them, but use them in awesome ways. And it's almost as if every night there's this transfer back. Because I think because of this great love that you parents and myself, that we have, sometimes we have a tendency to say, my kids. They're not our kids. We're stewards and we're managers of the kids. You and I have been allotted a certain amount of God's finances to steward and to manage. They are His finances, not ours. God, they're yours. What do you want me to do with them? He's given us certain ministries. You perhaps are in the corporate world. God's given you a ministry to reach the corporate world for Christ. Perhaps you're a homemaker and God's given you the role and the responsibility, the ministry of leading that home and caring for the home and keeping it in order, full of peace and grace. That is God's ministry for you, but it's His ministry. Have a great blessing and privilege of serving you. This is God's church. It's not Todd's church. And we present it back to Him all the time. In fact, Job himself existed because God chose to create him. Just sit on that for a second. He allowed Job breath in his lungs. Job didn't make himself. God did. I want to ask you and myself, what would be your response if you're in Job's shoes at that point? Let me ask you, what has been your response when that has occurred in your life? I got to tell you, that was very challenging to me. I'm madly in love with my wife. I'm madly in love with my family. But am I more madly in love with Jesus Christ? Is He my sure foundation? Is He my true God? Where everything else can be taken away, but Jesus, you're there, you don't change, and I'm okay with you and you alone. Church, I believe until we get to that point, we're fooling ourselves. But I'm not preaching this for anything else but to prepare us. We don't know when that day is going to come. Or if that day would come when our business is wiped out. Our bank account's wiped out. My 7-year-old is taken away and been back to the Lord. I don't know that. But I want us to be prepared. If Christ is our sure foundation, we are prepared. Yes, we'll be sad. Yes, we'll mourn. And we need to mourn. We need to mourn. But if Christ is our sure foundation, He's the only thing that doesn't change. So, Job goes through this test. He passes the test. And Satan goes, okay, the reason he passed the test is He didn't let me touch his body. Allow me to mess up his body and he'll curse you. I don't know about you, but when I'm sick, or when I'm hurt, I remember ripping hamstrings and concussions and all that. My attitude changed. And I'm all grumpy to my wife. Get away from me. Talk to you right now. Satan's onto something. Let's see the test here. Chapter 2, verse 6. God grants access for Satan to touch his body. Watch what happens. Verse 6 of chapter 2. The Lord said to Satan, behold, he's in your hand, but spare his life. So in other words, you can do anything you want to him. You can't kill him though. Verse 7. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. He struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took for himself a potsherd. Now, we'll go back to that because I don't know what that means, but I'll tell you in a second. With which to scrape himself while he sat in the midst of the ashes. Then, verse 9. Then his wife said to him, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. In other words, you still going to believe in a God that's going to allow this to happen? Like, you need to get a different faith, dude, if you're going to have a God that treats you like this. Verse 10, but he said to her, you speak as a foolish woman. Careful, women. Shall we indeed accept, and this is what I underline in my Bible, shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? Once again, in all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Pause there. Imagine, if you will, crazy, painful chicken pox on steroids. From the bottom of your feet to the top of your head, everywhere in between. I'm talking everywhere in between. That word potsherd that he ended up scraping himself with is charis in the Hebrew. And it's earthenware, clay pottery, a shard of that. In the NLT, I looked it up and it said it's basically a piece of broken pottery. So basically, think of you're in this complete agony physically. You just go to mom's flower pot, you just bust it up, you take a piece of it, and just start ripping your whole flesh up, trying to get some type of relief. So you lost your business, you lost your